Elara Monroe was curled into her oversized sweater, half listening to the rain tap against the cafe window as she tried to force her eyes back to her laptop screen. Interior sketches and client briefs blurred together, and the noise of the cafe seemed louder than usual. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. London area code. She almost ignored it, but something in her chest told her to pick up. Miss Elara Monroe speaking. I'm calling from the offices of Chambers and Doyle Solicitors, representing an estate in the Scottish Highlands. We regret to inform you that Evelyn Fraser, your maternal grandmother, passed away last week, and you are named as the sole heir to her estate. Elara froze. Evelyn Fraser. That name didn't exist in her world. Her mother always claimed she'd been orphaned young, never mentioned grandparents at all. There must be a mistake. I don't know anyone by that name. She lived in seclusion in a village called Glenshade, Miss Monroe. According to her final will, the house now belongs to you. There was a long pause on Elara's end. Her hands were trembling slightly. I'm going to need the address. 3 weeks later. Glenshade Village, northern Scotland. The taxi driver shifted uncomfortably as the road narrowed into a dirt path swallowed by fog. You sure this is where you're going, Miss 17 Heather Lane? Last house on the road. He gave a reluctant nod, but didn't step out when they arrived. Elara pulled her coat tighter and stepped into the white veil of mist suitcase wheels dragging over gravel. The house emerged like a memory from an old dream, stone walls worn with age, a steep slate roof windows that looked too rounded to be entirely human. She held the antique key in her hand, inserted it into the heavy oak door. The lock turned with a sigh, like something had been waiting. The smell hit her first lavender beeswax damp wood, and something older, something buried. The first clue. Inside dust sheets covered most of the furniture, yet the air didn't smell of dust. The wood floors were clean. The scent of dried herbs lingered in the corners. Someone had kept this place alive. Elara walked up the narrow staircase, her fingers trailing the carved banister to the bedroom that faced the woods. A small box sat neatly on the windowsill, wooden delicate carved with symbols she didn't recognize. Inside was a folded letter, handwritten in dark ink. My dearest Elara, if you are reading this, it means I am gone, and you have finally stepped into the place that once rejected you, but which has always belonged to you. Go to the cellar. You will find a door that cannot be opened with any key. It will open when you are ready to remember. Evelyn Fraser. Elara looked out the window at the rolling fog creeping through the pine trees. Her breath caught in her throat. She had no memory of this place. But the house remembered her. The cellar door was at the end of a short hallway, behind the kitchen, heavy wooden and unusually narrow. A rusty chain lock dangled from the side, already unlatched. The hinges groaned as Elara pushed it open, revealing a steep staircase that disappeared into darkness. She hesitated. The air drifting up from below was colder than the October chill outside, not just cold, but old, like it hadn't been disturbed in decades. Elara descended slowly, flashlight in one hand, the other trailing along the stone wall. The cellar was deeper than she expected. Steps kept going. 10, then 15, then 20. At the bottom, silence. Not even the sound of her own breath. The beam of her flashlight swept across the space. Stone walls, a low ceiling, rows of shelves filled with jars, dried herbs, candles, small cloth pouches, bones. And then there it was, a door embedded directly into the stone wall. Not made of wood or metal, not really a door at all. It was a smooth circular outline carved into the rock itself. Inside the circle, etched lines spiraled outward like a labyrinth. No handle, no hinges, no lock. But Elara could feel it, a presence, like something on the other side was aware she was standing there. She reached out. Her fingers hovered over the etched lines. They pulsed, faintly warm, not stone cold, almost alive. The voice in the dark, then a sound. Not from the door, not from behind her, from inside her mind. You've returned. But you don't remember, do you? Elara stumbled back, nearly dropping the flashlight. Who's there? She whispered. Silence. She turned in a circle, the beam of light shaking in her hand. No one. You wore red the last time. You were small. Your mother carried you away before the fog could close in. The voice was not frightening, just ancient, soft, and heartbreakingly familiar, like something from a dream she couldn't quite recall. Elara looked back at the door. Etched near the bottom, so faint she hadn't seen it before, were 4 words. To open, remember me. Her heart pounded. She didn't remember anything. No village, no house, no visit. Her mother had never spoken of Scotland, never let her travel here. Elara backed away, flashlight dimming slightly. Returning upstairs. That night she couldn't sleep. The fire in the hearth crackled, but didn't warm the unease in her chest. On the kitchen table she spread out everything she'd found in the house so far. Old photographs, dusty notebooks, an embroidered shawl with a stitched emblem of spirals within spirals, the same as the door. She flipped through one of the notebooks. In it, her grandmother's handwriting curled across the yellowed pages, in a strange blend of diary entries and folklore. He is still waiting, even though I told him she would not come back. I lied. I knew she would. The stone remembers. The mist watches. The house keeps her name hidden until she's ready. Elara stood and walked to the window. The fog outside had thickened. It no longer looked natural. It curled in deliberate shapes, winding around the trees like fingers. And in the distance, just past the edge of the pine wood, a faint figure stood, watching the house. Elara awoke just before dawn, heart racing, breath short. She couldn't remember the dream, but her hands were trembling, and the back of her neck was damp with sweat. Something had touched her. Not in the dream, but in the room. She was certain of it. Wrapped in a wool blanket, she crept toward the window again. The fog had thickened overnight, swallowing everything beyond the front garden. But even through the heavy mist, she saw it again, a figure standing just at the edge of the pine trees. Still. Watching. She squinted. The shape was slender, tall, long limbs, and what looked like a cloak trailing in the windless air. No movement, not even a blink. But then, it was gone. Just like that. The first memory. By midday, Elara was back in the cellar. She didn't know what she expected. Maybe the door would react again. Maybe the voice would return. She stood in front of the stone circle and whispered, "Who are you, Silence?" She touched the spiral. This time something changed. Her skin burned faintly at the contact, and her vision blurred. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed onto the cold floor. A flash, a girl. Red coat, tiny boots in the snow. A voice not hers. "Run, Elara. Run and don't look back." She gasped and snapped out of it, lying flat on the floor, shivering. The cellar was still. The door remained closed, but her breath was ragged and her mind was reeling. That was real, a memory, one she never knew existed. The letter beneath the floorboards. Back upstairs, she tore through every drawer, shelf, and cabinet. She didn't know what she was looking for, only that the door had shown her something true. In her grandmother's bedroom, under a loose floorboard near the hearth, she found it, a letter sealed in wax, addressed to the girl who forgot. She broke the seal. You were only 4 when your mother took you away. I begged her to stay, but she feared what you might become. He had already chosen you. You were marked Elara by the stones, by the mist, by him. But the choosing is not the end. It is the beginning. If you wish to remember, you must return to the stone circle in the woods. Elara stared at the final line. He will not step into the house until you call him. But he is waiting, child. He never stopped. Into the mist. Armed with only a coat and a flashlight, Elara left the house just before sunset. The fog swirled around her legs like water, and the air felt heavier with each step. The woods were silent. No birdsong. No wind. She reached the edge of the trees. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, but something deeper, older, pulled her forward. And there he was, the figure from the mist, now only 10 feet away. Cloaked in gray, tall and lean face shadowed beneath a hood. You remember me, he said, his voice low and resonant. Not yet, Elara whispered, but you will. He stepped forward, mist parting around him, as if it feared his presence. His hand extended toward hers. Say my name, Elara. Say it, and the door will open. But Elara could only stare. Because suddenly in the hollow of her chest, she did remember him, and she was terrified. Elara stood frozen beneath the towering pine trees, her breath clouding the mist. The figure, he was only a few steps away. His presence didn't feel human. The fog bent around him, the air thickened with each heartbeat. Say it, he whispered. Say my name. She opened her mouth, but the word caught in her throat. Not because she didn't know it, but because some part of her remembered what would happen if she did. Her lips trembled. Kale. The name slipped out like a secret that had waited years to be spoken. The moment it passed her lips, the trees shuddered. Kale removed his hood. His face was striking, sharp, ageless, beautiful in an otherworldly way. His eyes were the color of ash after fire, pale gray, glowing faintly. Not a man, not a ghost, a fae. A mist-bound elf bound by ancient promise to a child who had once saved him. You knew me, he said, before you ever knew yourself. The pact remembered flashes returned. Elara, at 4 years old, lost in the fog, crying, a voice singing her name, hands lifting her gently from the cold ground, and a bargain whispered into her ear. I'll lead you home, little flame, but one day you'll return the light, a child's promise. But in the world of the fae, promises are binding. My mother took me away, she whispered. She tried to, Kale said, voice soft. But you were already marked by the stone. By me. The spiral door opens. Back at the house, the mist deepened into night. Elara stood once more before the spiral door in the cellar. Kale beside her now. Though he never touched the floor, his feet hovered inches above the ground. It opens for you now, he said. What's behind it, the memory you buried, and the key to unbinding both of us? Elara reached out again. This time, when her fingers brushed the spirals, they turned like gears beneath her hand. A deep groan echoed through the stone walls. The door cracked open with a sound like air being drawn in after centuries without breath. Behind it, darkness that wasn't just shadow, it pulsed alive and waiting. Kale held out his hand. Once you step through, you cannot return unchanged. Will I remember everything you already are? The other side. They stepped through the opening together. The air inside wasn't cold. It was warm, dreamlike. Glowing symbols floated mid-air like embers. The walls were lined with glass jars, each holding flickering lights, memories. And in the center of the chamber, atop a stone pedestal, was a crystal orb the size of Elara's heart. "That is your flame," Kale said softly. "The piece of you left behind." Elara approached, and as her fingers brushed the orb, images poured into her like a storm. Her mother pleading with Evelyn to sever the bond. Evelyn refusing, saying, "The pact is sealed. She is his light, and he is her shadow." The ritual in the woods. Kale shielding her from something dark that once tried to consume her. And then Elara's tiny hand on his chest whispering, "I won't forget you." But she did. Her mother made sure of it. The orb pulsed brightly. Then it shattered into light. Elara fell to her knees as the full truth rushed back in, and with it, the ancient power tied to her name. Elara didn't move for a long time. The shattered remnants of the orb glowed faintly around her embers, hovering in the still air like weightless fireflies. Inside her chest, something ancient had awakened. Not a memory, a power. She could feel it in her breath, in her pulse, a quiet hum beneath her skin. Across the chamber, Kale knelt silently, watching, waiting. "What am I?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Still yourself," he said, "but more than you were allowed to be." The truth of the pact. Kale stood slowly, his cloak stirring, though there was no wind. "When you were born, you were already tied to the mists. Your mother knew it. Your grandmother, she was the last of a line that once kept the boundary between this world and mine. So I was part of this before I ever met you," Nokoil said gently. "You became part of it when you saved me." The chamber darkened slightly, and a ripple of shadow moved through the glowing jars. "Long ago I was a warden of the mist until I disobeyed a command and crossed into the human realm to save a child from the dying snow. You. The cost of my mercy was exile. Binding. But you, Elara, you offered your light freely, and so we were bound." "You're not just waiting for me to remember," she said. "You're waiting to be freed." Kale's expression didn't change, but the silence that followed said everything. "If I break the bond," Elara continued, "you'll be free, but I'll lose everything I just regained." "Yes. And if I keep it, then your life will no longer be fully mortal. The mists will follow you. The door will remain open." The choice. Elara stood now slowly, her body humming with something more than human. "My mother tried to protect me," she said, "but she also erased me. I don't want a life stolen clean and quiet. I want the truth even if it's wild." She walked toward Kale, the mist curling at her feet. "You waited for me. I always would." Her hand reached out, palm open between them. "Then I choose the bond." Kale's eyes, those pale, endless eyes, widened, not in triumph, but in relief. Not for himself, for her. The mist responds. The stone beneath them cracked with light. The chamber trembled as spirals of silver fire rose into the air, and the mist, once passive, once watching, now knelt. It recognized her. Not just as Kale's light, but as its own. A keeper. A bridge between the realms. A flame reborn, 1 week later. Elara stood at the front steps of the mist house. The fog still circled the pines, but now it felt familiar, gentle. Inside, the rooms had shifted. Where dust once gathered, flowers now bloomed. The spiral carvings on the stone glowed softly at night. Kale was never far, not bound, not trapped, just near, by choice, by promise. Somewhere deep in the woods, a whispering voice carried on the fog. She returned. She remembered. She chose us.